I had mentioned a little bit before in 2022, my dad had passed away super sporadically. And that, itself was traumatizing. He literally just dropped dead, while he was driving. They
Jesus.
just, yeah, and I didn't even get notified. We got a call from our cousin that was like, police showed up at our door and your dad passed away. And I'm like, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what's going on? I called
What?
my brother, right? I called my brother and he's like, yeah, I got the same news. So here's me like full blown panic mode. Like that was it. That's all it took, called hospitals everywhere in the area. And they're like, yeah, we can't give you any information. And
What?
I'm his daughter. So eventually I got in touch with the sheriff who knocked on my cousin's door and they're like, yes, like your dad passed away this morning. And I'm like, just like dropped the phone, like didn't know what was going on. Like got like that whole, like, like the world was caving in. And yeah, like just since then, we didn't really find out what had happened. They couldn't do an autopsy because he had COVID. He was COVID positive. So they don't do autopsies, on those
Oh, I
that
didn't know
passed with
that.
COVID. Yeah, I don't know if they've changed it now, but 2 years ago they didn't.
Oh, you know
Um,
why? I do know why. It's because
why?
the hospitals get paid for sure because the government was paying for COVID deaths. So if somebody tested positive for COVID, they marked them as COVID. They know they'd
Oh
get
yeah,
paid. And so, yeah, that's why. It isn't because they thought they were going to catch something. It's because it
right.
was a
Oh yeah, it's all about the money.
a financial incentive. Yeah. So
Right.
bullshit. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's
Oh,
horrible.
yeah. No, absolutely. So like, and I know for a fact, like COVID is not why he passed away. They were able to do some other tests or whatever, not a full autopsy, but it looked like it was something with his heart inevitably.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's all that we knew. That's all that we found out. He showed up to the hospital. He was already pronounced dead, or that they only took him to the hospital to pronounce him dead. I guess he had stopped breathing on the scene as soon as they found him in his car. So yeah, just total bizarre, like that was just, it was weird. Didn't feel real. It still doesn't feel real. So the way that like we process things is just crazy because I'm just like, you hear news and I just like want to call my dad. It like still hasn't like clicked, so that was big for me and very life changing. I never thought that I would be 20 something years old when I was then and lost a parent. I had the realistic expectations of you watch your parents get old, inevitably get sick or something, and that's it. They lived a good life, 80s, 90s, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely taken way too soon, way too quick. So that's a uneasy thing to deal with, especially because again, like it was like, what happened? Like we
I
don't
can't.
know, so
How
it's like
can
so
you wrap
many,
your head around that? You can just
right?
write endless stories about what could have happened.
Oh yeah, I have so many dreams and I've made up so many scenarios in my head of like probably what happened and I'm sure none of them are true and my dad is probably somewhere laughing at me that like,
Hmm.
one of them was like he was doing something. I don't even know. It's just like, when you have your dreams, it's on your mind at night but yeah, so that was crazy for me. I'm still battling that. It looks a lot better now, but it's definitely more real now than it was pretty raw before. But, I have a lot of milestones coming up, which has made it hard for me mentally. And like
Hmm.
going back to November when you're like, what changed? I did had my gallbladder removed, like we said, and then I got COVID. So I think it was just a lot that piled on at once finally that I had snapped,
Yeah.
because I never really think that I processed my dad's death appropriately. I had to be strong for my son. And that was hard, and his other mom was very supportive. My partner now, very supportive. I couldn't have done it without my partner. We were long distance at the time and she came home the minute she found out. So
Hmm.
4-hour drive, came home and, stayed with me and did whatever I needed. And so I have a great support system. My mom was there with me. My brother was there, his wife. So we're a very close knit family. We were all there for it. So that was good. But, it's just like, there's no handbook on how to deal with death. So we all grieve differently.
Yep.
I had lost family before. I had lost my great grandparents. I was fortunate enough to have my great grandma. She lived to be 100. I had seen her pass away. So I had lost people in my life. But when you lose a parent, that's a direct like link to you. Like, you know, that person brought me into this world. Like, he was part of the reason of why I'm alive. You know, he gave me life. So it was different. It was hard. It wasn't a normal loss. So yeah,
And
I never
everybody
felt like I
grieves
dealt
different.
with it. Right.
Yeah, and not only that, but I have this newish theory. Someone smarter probably came up with it, and I'm just stealing it. So whatever. But grief, we've been taught, is linear. Like, you go through the 6 stages of grief. Grief is not linear. Like,
no.
I get to acceptance, and then before I know it on something, I'm back to angry. You know what I mean? It's like, and I've really, since my time on Love is Blind and everything that's happened since then, I haven't even made it to acceptance once, but I go back and forth between all the other ones. And I think you just go back and forth. And when you don't get the closure, which the closure for you would have been knowing what happened.
Yeah. So it's like I have to create like my own story and just like end it myself. And I haven't been able to close that door yet because I don't want to believe that it just happened and it's just done, you know? So yeah, that's definitely been kind of, I don't think that it's fully responsible for where my mental health is at today, but I think it's got a good chunk of it. You know, it's hard. It's definitely hard. It's harder even being a parent, experiencing losing a parent, because it makes you look at that relationship a lot different as well. So just all around was very difficult. You know, started going to therapy in November to really figure out what was going on, what had changed. You know, and I thought something was wrong with me again. I think anxiety tends to make us feel like something is physically wrong with us. When, you know, it's not. You just got to take a step back and be able to have those tools to talk yourself out of things and give yourself grace and be very present and understanding. But yeah, I think, again, I've never been a person that was very in tune with their feelings. And surprising because I have a podcast that talks about mental health.
Right.
So I had to go 180. But, you know, I think it just, again, it all piled up at once and it was a lot. And it finally just hit me and I experienced a breaking point and I had to just like dig myself out of the hole that I kind of put myself in.